Imagine, just for a second, a compound naturally found in human stomach acid,
Right.
the highly corrosive, totally acidic environment of your own digestive tract.
Yeah. Not exactly a soothing place.
No, not at all. But now imagine that this exact same compound is currently sweeping through athletic and recovery communities as like a so-called miracle healing agent
It's wild.
for torn tendons, severe muscle damage, and chronic joint pain. I mean, it sounds like science fiction, or maybe just a really bizarre internet rumor.
It really does. I mean, it definitely sounds counterintuitive to associate the harsh, destructive environment of gastric juice with, rapid, miraculous tissue repair.
Exactly.
You would naturally assume stomach acid does the exact opposite of healing.
Right. But that is the actual science we are looking at today. So, welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
We have a massive stack of sources in front of us for you today. It's a highly comprehensive collection of research articles, medical summaries, and clinical notes. And they are all focused on a buzzy synthetic peptide called BPC-157.
Which is everywhere right now.
It really is. So our mission today is simple. We are going to cut through the massive amount of internet hype surrounding this compound.
Yeah, and there is a lot of hype.
A ton of it. We're going to map out what the science actually says, what is still completely unproven, and why this specific molecule is causing such an absolute stir in both the medical and athletic worlds.
And that stir is only getting louder. I mean, if you spend any time looking into physical recovery or physical therapy or longevity right now, you are going to encounter those 3 letters and 3 numbers.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because you listening, you are getting a front row seat to the cutting edge of recovery science today.
And we're going to do it without all the confusing medical jargon.
Exactly. So to understand why people are so eager to inject or swallow this stuff, we first have to understand what it actually is and, where it comes from.
Right.
As we hinted at, the origin story is surprisingly gross, yet totally fascinating.
Yeah, so BPC actually stands for body protection compound.
Body protection compound.
Right. It originates from a naturally occurring protein that is found right there in human gastric juice.
In the stomach.
Exactly. Its natural biological purpose in the stomach is associated with protecting and healing the gastrointestinal system.
Because it's such a harsh environment.
Yeah, I mean, your stomach has to handle very strong acids to break down food, so it needs incredibly robust biological mechanisms to protect its own lining and repair any micro damage instantaneously.
Otherwise, the acid would just eat right through the stomach wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what researchers did was they looked at this larger body protection protein, and they isolated one very specific active sequence of it.
Okay.
They basically pulled out a chain of 15 amino acids. And because it has 15 amino acids, the scientific literature refers to it as a pentadicaptide.
A pentadicaptide.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
That is a great word for a spelling bee, but for you listening, just think of it as a very specific, tiny 15-link chemical chain.
Right, keep it simple.
Now, surely the BPC-157 that all these athletes are researching and using, it isn't being harvested from actual human stomachs, right?
Yeah.
Because that would be completely impractical and incredibly gross.
Yeah, highly illegal and gross. No, instead, scientists take that specific 15 amino acid blueprint they identified, and they synthesize it in laboratories.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Right. This synthetic production ensures they have a pure, stable, and reproducible compound for research.
So if it's synthetic.
Exactly. When you hear about BPC-157 on a forum or in a medical journal, you are dealing with a synthetic lab-created peptide that is modeled directly on that specific gastric fragment.
Got it. Now, I want to clarify something critical for you listening, because the moment we start talking about athletes, recovery, and, lab-created compounds, a lot of people immediately jump to the word steroids.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a common misconception.
Right. So we need to draw a very hard line here between peptides and steroids. Let me try an analogous.
Okay, let's hear it.
So if steroids are like a loud megaphone, blasting hormonal commands that change your entire metabolism and completely altering muscle growth and hormone profiles across your whole body.
Right.
Peptides like BPC-157 are more like targeted text messages. They're sent to specific cells to coordinate localized repair.
So does this peptide interact with hormone receptors at all?
No, not at all. Building on that text message idea, it doesn't just ping the cells, it provides a specific signaling blueprint for local repair, and it completely bypasses the hormone system.
Wow. Okay.
And for the listener, this distinction is absolutely crucial. When we think of performance-enhancing compounds, the mind naturally goes to testosterone, or SARMs, which are selective androgen receptor modulators.
Right. The classic bodybuilding stuff.
Exactly. Those are lipid-based compounds, often derived from cholesterol. And they fundamentally work by binding to androgen receptors to drive broad systemic changes in muscle mass and metabolic function.
The megaphone.
The megaphone, exactly. BPC-157 is an entirely different category of biochemical operation. It is purely a signaling molecule. Okay.
It does not share the chemical structure of a steroid. It simply sends cellular signals that influence tissue repair, blood vessel formation, and local response pathways without touching your body's endocrine or hormonal balance.
Okay, so knowing that it's this targeted text message, and knowing that it's naturally designed to protect the harsh environment of the stomach, how does it theoretically heal a torn Achilles tendon? Or, say, an inflamed bicep?
That's the big question.
Yeah, we need to move from what it is to how it actually works inside the body.
Right. So this is where we get into the mechanisms of healing. And I should note, it is largely based on preclinical models.
Which means animal and laboratory studies, right?
Exactly. Mostly rats. So to give you an idea what these studies look like, researchers will take rats and physically transect, meaning they completely cut their Achilles tendons.
Ouch.
Yeah. And they let some heal naturally, and they administer BPC-157 to the others.
Okay, and what happens?
Well, the ones receiving the peptide don't just heal faster. The structural alignment of the newly formed collagen fibers is actually superior.
Wow.
Yeah. And the primary biological pathway driving this is something called angiogenesis.
Angiogenesis. Okay, let's break down how that actually functions at the tissue level.
Sure. Angiogenesis is the physiological process through which new blood vessels form from pre-existing vessels.
New blood vessels, okay.
Right. In these animal models, BPC-157 stimulates this process by interacting heavily with the nitric oxide system.
Nitric oxide, which is a gas, right?
Exactly. It's a gas that acts as a signaling molecule in the body. It essentially penetrates the smooth muscle cells that wrap around your blood vessels, and it signals them to relax.
Okay.
When those smooth muscles relax, the blood vessels widen, which significantly increases blood flow to a targeted area.
I see. Let's frame this with an analogy for the logistics of healing.
Go for it.
If an injured tendon, say you rolled your ankle really badly and tore a ligament, if that injury is a collapsed bridge,
Yeah.
BPC-157 doesn't just send in the cement trucks full of collagen.
Right.
Because, I mean, you can't just send cement to a collapsed bridge. You have to build temporary access roads first so the trucks can actually reach the site.
I like that.
So the angiogenesis is the building of those new supply roads.
That is a perfect way to look at it, because if you don't have blood flow, you don't have healing.
Right.
Tendons and ligaments famously have very poor natural blood supply compared to muscles, which is why they take months or even years to heal.
They're basically biological deserts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by stimulating the nitric oxide system to widen existing vessels and triggering growth factors like VEGF, which is vascular endothelial growth factor,
Okay.
to physically sprout new capillaries, you are dramatically increasing the delivery of oxygen and building materials right where the structural repair needs to happen.
Which totally explains why the recovery communities are so obsessed with it. I mean, if you can hack the blood supply to a tendon, you could potentially cut recovery times in half.
Theoretically, yes.
But what about the pain and the immediate swelling after an injury? How does it handle that?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the compound manages inflammation. In these preclinical models, BPC-157 actively dials down the cytokines.
Cytokines. So for you listening, think of cytokines as the chemical alarm bells your immune system rings to trigger swelling and recruit inflammatory cells to a trauma site.
Exactly, the alarm bells. So by modulating these alarm bells, the peptide reduces excessive tissue irritation.
It stops the body from just completely overreacting and flooding the zone.
Right, because acute inflammation is a natural, necessary part of the initial healing process. But excessive or prolonged inflammation causes secondary damage to the surrounding healthy tissue.
Makes sense.
It's like the fire department showing up to put out a small kitchen fire, but causing massive water damage to the entire house in the process.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, so by limiting that excessive irritation, BPC-157 theoretically allows the body to focus purely on rebuilding the structural integrity of the tendon, rather than fighting a massive, ongoing chemical fire.
Okay, so it builds the access roads, it brings in the collagen, and it turns off the excessive chemical alarm bells.
That's the idea.
I mean, it sounds incredible on paper, but here is where my skepticism kicks in, and I'm sure you listening might be wondering the exact same thing.
It is.
Since it builds these localized healing highways, the next logical hurdle is figuring out how to actually get the compound to the collapsed bridge in the ankle.
Right, delivery.
Because I see BPC-157 marketed all over the internet as an oral supplement, like just a capsule you swallow.
Yeah, they are everywhere.
But wait, if the digestive system's entire job is to aggressively dismantle proteins into individual amino acids, how does swallowing a BPC-157 capsule not just result in, expensive digestion?
It's a very valid question.
Doesn't the stomach acid just destroy the peptide before it can even do anything?
Well, generally speaking, yes. The digestive system is a highly efficient machine designed to break down proteins into useless fragments so they can be absorbed as basic fuel. That's why insulin, for example, which is a peptide hormone, has to be injected. If a diabetic patient swallowed an insulin pill, their stomach would just digest it, rendering it useless.
So why are people selling oral BPC-157 for, shoulder pain then?
Honestly, the marketing often heavily outpaces the actual science.
Ah, okay.
However, BPC-157 has a unique characteristic because of its origin.
Right, from the stomach.
Exactly.
Oh.
Remember, it is a fragment of a protein that evolved specifically to exist in gastric juice. Therefore, its chemical bonds are remarkably stable in highly acidic conditions.
Oh, I see.
It survives the stomach environment because it was essentially born there.
Okay, so it survives, but does it actually make it into the bloodstream to fix the shoulder?
That is the crucial limitation. Just because it survives the stomach doesn't mean it effectively crosses the intestinal wall and enters systemic circulation to heal a distant joint.
Right.
The bioavailability of oral BPC-157 for systemic musculoskeletal injuries is considered to be incredibly low and, frankly, highly uncertain.
So what is the oral version actually good for? Anything?
Oh, definitely. The sources indicate that oral delivery is highly targeted for localized gut issues.
Gut issues, okay.
Yeah, in animal studies, oral BPC-157 shows remarkable, consistent effects in protecting the stomach lining from damage caused by severe stress or chemical irritation.
Oh, wow.
It is heavily researched for healing gastric ulcers and maintaining the mucosal integrity of the intestines. It basically acts locally on the tissue. It is literally touching as it moves through the digestive tract.
Okay, so if you want to heal a gut issue, swallowing a capsule makes physiological sense.
Exactly.
You are dropping the compound directly onto the site of the problem. But to fix a structural issue, like a torn rotator cuff, the animal models aren't relying on digestion.
No, not at all. They rely on injectable delivery.
Injections?
Yeah. By injecting it, usually subcutaneously under the skin or intramuscularly near the injury, the peptide enters direct circulation. It bypasses the digestive breakdown entirely and achieves significantly higher bioavailability right at the localized structural target.
But what if the damage isn't just one localized bridge?
What do you mean?
Like, what if someone has massive full-body muscle damage from an extreme athletic event or some kind of systemic muscular condition? If BPC-157 is so hyper-localized, does it just fail to address the whole body?
That limitation is exactly why researchers in these preclinical trials often pair it with or look toward a completely different peptide called TB500 for systemic repair.
TB500?
Yeah. TB500 is a synthetic version of a naturally occurring protein called thymosin beta-4.
Okay.
While BPC-157 stays highly localized to the injection site or the gut, TB500 is designed to travel and act systemically across the entire body.
So it just circulates everywhere looking for damage.
Pretty much. It distributes much more broadly through the vascular system. And the mechanism of action is also entirely different.
How so?
Well, TB500 focuses heavily on upregulating a cellular protein called actin. Right. Actin forms the actual physical microfilaments inside your cells. It's the cellular scaffolding, basically.
Ooh, okay.
It is vital for cell movement, division, and muscle contraction. So by upregulating actin, TB500 is essentially giving cells the mechanical equipment they need to migrate quickly across the body and patch up widespread muscle damage.
Wow. So in the experimental models, researchers investigate BPC-157 for a very specific isolated Achilles tendon tear, while TB500 is investigated for broad muscle recovery, systemic wound healing, and, whole body tissue regeneration.
That summarizes the fundamental difference in how these two molecules are applied in laboratory settings perfectly.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you listening? It means that if you see a targeted ad on social media selling you a bottle of oral BPC-157 capsules promising to cure your torn meniscus, the science strongly suggests you might be wasting your money.
Yeah, a lot of money.
For structural musculoskeletal recovery, the successful animal models depend on localized injectable forms to get the compound directly to the injury.
The current preclinical data undeniably points to injections for musculoskeletal issues.
Right, and this brings us to the elephant in the room.
Ah, yes.
We have to transition from the theoretical benefits of these animal models to the stark and, honestly, somewhat harsh medical reality.
We do.
If injectable BPC-157 is performing these absolute miracles in lab rats, building new supply roads, healing tendons with superior collagen alignment, protecting nerves, why isn't this prescribed by every single orthopedic surgeon and sports doctor in the world?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is incredibly straightforward. BPC-157 has 0 FDA approval.
0.
None. For any medical condition whatsoever.
0 clinical approval. That's wild.
Yeah. All of this amazing data we've been discussing about tendon healing, muscle recovery, ulcer repair, and angiogenesis, it is entirely preclinical.
Which means?
It is based on laboratory petri dishes and animal models. We severely lack large-scale, controlled human safety data and clinical trials. Legally, it is classified as an investigational compound, not a verified drug or a dietary supplement.
That lack of regulation creates a really dangerous landscape, I mean.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to push back on all the online hype for a second. Buying unapproved, unregulated injectable peptides online is like buying skydiving gear out of the trunk of a car in a dark alley.
That is a terrifying image, but very accurate.
Right, because you have absolutely no idea what the purity of the compound is, you don't know if the vial is actually sterile, and you don't even know if the chemical dosage matches the label.
And those product quality and purity issues are a massive immediate risk.
Yeah.
Because it's not approved, the manufacturing process isn't subjected to standardized medical-grade controls. In fact, the FDA specifically lists BPC-157 as a bulk drug substance that presents significant safety risks in pharmacy compounding.
Oh, wow. So they explicitly flag it.
Yes, they do.
Hmm.
And beyond the immediate dangers of injecting a potentially contaminated, unsterile substance, there is the massive blank spot of long-term medical unknowns.
Right, because if it's constantly telling cells to grow new blood vessels and access roads, what happens if there's like a microscopic tumor or a cluster of abnormal cells nearby?
This raises an incredibly important question. If a compound is highly effective at stimulating angiogenesis and calling in growth factors, it doesn't distinguish between healthy tissue and dangerous tissue.
It just builds roads.
Exactly. So could it inadvertently accelerate unintended tissue growth by building new vascular supply lines to a precancerous cell?
That is terrifying.
We simply do not have the long-term longitudinal data on how this impacts human organ function, metabolic stability, or cellular mutation risk over a period of 5 or 10 years.
So you might be temporarily fixing a painful elbow, but permanently fueling something much worse deep inside your body.
It is a theoretical risk, yes, but a crucial one because of the absolute lack of human clinical trials. Furthermore, for the listener who might be a competitive athlete or participating in tested sports, it's vital to know that the World Anti-Doping Agency, WRD,
Oh, right, WR.
yeah, they strictly prohibit the use of unapproved substances. BPC-157 falls right into that restricted banned category.
So an athlete could lose their entire career over an unregulated vial they bought off a forum.
Easily.
And while you might hear anecdotes about people getting it prescribed by, like, cutting-edge doctors, the reality is that physicians can only prescribe it if local jurisdiction laws specifically allow them access to unapproved, compounded experimental drugs.
Which is becoming increasingly rare.
Right, and heavily scrutinized due to those FDA safety warnings.
It's a perfect example of how preclinical excitement in a laboratory rat doesn't automatically translate to safe, proven, and legal human medicine. The mechanical potential is there, but the verified safety profile is completely absent.
Right. Well, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today. Let's look at the whole board. The foundational science of pentadecapeptides and cellular processes like angiogenesis is undeniably promising for tissue repair. The idea that we can isolate biological signaling molecules, these targeted text messages, to build new supply highways to injured tendons or rapidly heal the gut lining is fascinating.
It really is the future.
But the harsh reality is that BPC-157 remains a highly experimental, unapproved compound. It's burdened with significant gray market risks, severe potential contamination dangers, and a total lack of long-term human safety data.
Right. The science is compelling, but the application is currently a massive gamble.
Before we go, I want to leave you listening with a final thought to mull over, and it builds right on the very origin of this specific compound.
Okay.
We started this deep dive by noting that BPC-157 is a fragment of a larger protective protein that naturally exists in human stomach acid. It's biologically designed to heal and protect our own gut.
Right.
So here's the question. How might our modern, highly processed diets and constant states of chronic stress be actively depleting our own natural reserves of this very body protection compound?
Oh, that's a great point.
Right. Instead of seeking out unapproved, synthetic, gray market injections to hack the healing process, could focusing on optimizing our baseline gut health naturally unlock this exact same healing potential from within?
That is the most critical physiological question we could possibly walk away with.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning what you read on the internet, stay deeply curious, and keep learning. We'll catch you next time.